Hi. So thank you for the introduction, Melanie. And yeah, my name is Charlie Gandy. I'm from Long Beach, and I'm really. If I stand back about this far, can you hear? So we'll connect through that mic, right? You can hear that, right? Okay, good. So I think the reason that I'm here tonight is because 2 years ago, the city of Long Beach put in a similar facility that is being considered along Figueroa, called the Broadway and 3rd separated bike lanes. And we've had those on the ground now for 2 years as a federal experiment in partnership with the Federal Highway Administration. And so my point tonight is to talk about that project and the results after 2 years of experience with that project and others. And so the idea is to put all that in context, first of all, and to help appreciate why Long Beach is doing this stuff. And I was asked to look at it from an economic development point of view, and so let's talk about competition for a moment. Long Beach has decided that it wants to compete with those cities that are making themselves attractive to 20 and 30-year-olds that have talent, that are going to move to a place that nurtures them and build a life and a career as much as they can in that place, or places like that. And so places like San Francisco or my hometown of Austin, Texas, have pioneered the approaches to connecting with those people. In 1992, I was in Austin, Texas, and this is a story about what happens when you put the hippies in charge. And that is, they looked around, and Lyle Lovett and Willie Nelson and others were living there, and they said, you know, we ought to embrace that mantle of being a great music venue, a great music town, a place people would come from all over to hear our residents and people who are fans of Austin, and to as a way to separate us and our identity from insurance-based Dallas and oil-based Houston. This was a way for Austin, among other things, to differentiate from the others and be attractive to 20 and 30-year-olds that might be bringing in their high-tech firms. And in fact, the approach that the trainers or the recruiters were using at that time in Austin were to invite young people that had companies in Silicon Valley to Austin, and as soon as they got off the airplane, they put them in a helicopter and flew them over Town Lake. They showed people recreating. They showed people running, bicycling, carrying on an active, healthy lifestyle. They connected with them emotionally first, and then they showed them where they could put their chip-making plant. So that has been the root of their success, is connecting emotionally with young people and attracting them to Austin. So those are the two competitors that Long Beach sees they want to compete. They want to benchmark against and compete against. The other elements that we see in Long Beach are that 20% fewer drivers are getting driver's license now. It's expensive to own a car, and many people are looking for car-light or car-free lifestyles. We also know that on the horizon in Long Beach are coming 2,000 BikeShare bikes, and so it's important to us to have an infrastructure that supports that investment that we're making in a BikeShare program, because that is about targeting these customers. These are the people we're designing for and we're building for. And notice in the bottom right corner here, 2 of those 3 people are here tonight, but this woman right here, and I'm going to come back to her, she is the owner of 2 restaurants, 2 cutting-edge coffee shops in downtown Long Beach. She is part of the catalyst of our business community that is saying we want Long Beach to be like those progressive cities that I've discussed and then others. And so she's one of our biggest fans and supporters in this entire endeavor. And then these are our design standards as well. Notice nobody has Lycra on. Notice that there aren't any skinny, flat-bellied men in these pictures that have Lycra on. The fact is, we're talking about the lifestyle of bicycling in Long Beach, not the sport of bicycling. That's still there, but that's not our focus, because that's not the low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit is taking care of these people in neighborhood rides and these types of facilities support that kind of lifestyle. Consequently, the City Council developed 6 years ago now the political will to make something happen related to bikes. They had heard from Enrique Peñalosa. He had come through and talked about how Long Beach looked like the kind of place. It was flat, the weather's perfect, there's lots of young people there and a lot of young people that want to live there. It would be a great place to use bicycling and active living as a differentiator as part of Long Beach's narrative. And so the City Council took that up, and about that time we had a city manager that had come in that was a cyclist and could see the value of bicycling and active living as part of our narrative in Long Beach. And so they made a commitment to an agenda and put the staff on making something happen on that agenda. Well, within 18 months, the staff had found some $12 million in grants from Metro, from the county, from the state, and from the federal government to do a bunch of bicycle projects. They dusted off the bike plan that had been done in 2001, but hadn't been acted on by 2007, and started writing $500,000 and plus grants to that program, and hit the jackpot on it because other cities in Southern California were not approaching Metro and others for those grants, and therefore Long Beach got more than its share. So it started doing 3 different projects that are, again, I'm creating the context here in which this kind of facility that you're considering on Figueroa makes some sense. If you're in the business of this type of evolution of the place, then it makes sense to look at these things. Through Belmont Shore, maybe you've been through the green lane on Belmont Shore. We have 40,000 cars a day coming through these 2-car travel lanes and 2 over here. Those are the numbers. Here's an interesting point. That 150 to 300 people that are showing up either as employees and or locals are not taking those car parking spaces that you from Los Angeles or Orange County might do if you come down to have a meal in Belmont Shore. Therefore, that is a smarter parking strategy for those businesses, and that's one of the reasons that business association supports what we're up to. The next project of these 3 pilot projects that we've done is the Vista Bike Boulevard. I think you're generally familiar with bike boulevards, but it is a parallel residential street. It's parallel to a busy arterial. In this case, this street's 1 block off of Broadway, a very busy arterial street through Long Beach. In this scenario, we've got 2 elementary schools on either end and a middle school close to the middle of this 1.5 miles or so. And so we've used traffic circles and diverters to create a different place. And here's the results. We've tripled the number of cyclists using that route. We've doubled pedestrians. We've had a very positive effect on real estate values, and that's because it's a tamer street now than it was before. The people who live on those traffic corners, or those corners where we put traffic circles or roundabouts, like it because they used to hear about 3 times a year the skid and then the hit where somebody gets T-boned in those intersections, and it's usually at night when the drunks are coming up from Belmont Shore to go home. They wanted that problem fixed. These traffic circles, this Vista Bike Boulevard, solved that problem and helped us sell that to the neighborhood. Bike-friendly business districts are a part of our conversation in Long Beach because, again, this is about activating people to use the bike network that we've put in place. And so it's just a series of incentives that we've created to encourage, or in fact to privilege, people showing up by bicycle or walking. Those local businesses, some 200 of them now, have figured out that this is a smart way to connect with those people that live within a mile away and to develop a relationship with them. And so this is fairly basic Main Street development of a neighborhood, but we're using the active living agenda as an overlay on that to, 1, because we've got funding to do that, and 2, it makes sense in that shop local agenda. Street decks or parklets. I'm not going to dwell on this, but it's important for you to note this is an emerging big deal. We have put 3 of these in the last year, and we have 4 teed up, where we've taken out a car space and replaced it with an extension of the adjacent business. In this case, that business owner I told you about, Caston, this is one of her places. She, using their money, installed this parklet. So this is a public-private partnership. The long and short of it is she has increased her business by 30%. She's hired 6 new employees to manage the increase in growth. She didn't have to move by expanding her business, and a car company has paid her $10,000 to shoot a car commercial because they want to be associated with what's new, what's urban, and what's hip. And a parklet, or what we call street decks in this public-private partnership, are examples of that. This is what happens when the RDA goes away and entrepreneurs start looking at the place and see fresh opportunities. I encourage you to come to Long Beach and check that out. So the economic impact of this whole bike campaign is that 30 new businesses, or that have significantly expanded, have shown up there. We've hosted national conferences. That $22 million in grants, we've spent less than half of that at this point. We still have more than that to put down. We've got some 15 miles of bike boulevards that are funded to go into other neighborhoods based on the success of the original one. So by doing those pilot projects and having a city council that has embraced this and created a comfort zone in which the professionals then can put these things down and explain what's going on and teach as we go and give people a chance to respond to that, that's the approach that Long Beach has used, and it's worked out pretty well. So on this separated bikeway question, let me outline the process that we use quickly to do that, and let me show you then the results after 2 years along that route. First of all, we looked, here is Broadway and here is 3rd Street. You probably know 710 coming down here from where we are, Los Angeles, up here. So you can get off on 7th or 6th, you can get off and use 3rd or Broadway, and you can use Ocean, and you can use Shoreline such as this. And so what we did was look at the 6 lanes here, the 6 lanes here, the 6 lanes here, the 6 lanes, or 3 lanes here, 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here, found a whole bunch of extra capacity in that corridor to work with. And so what we did was convert along Broadway and 3rd one of the car travel lanes through there to a bikeway. Here's what that same model looks like in other cities. We then looked at what was going on around the world related to these types of separated bike facilities, sometimes known as cycle tracks, because this is not in the manual. This is going beyond the manual now. And so we noticed that in Paris, all they did was put a stripe down here and pull these cars off the curb and created the separated facility. What we've learned from the research that the public health people have done over the last 10 years is that women aren't too impressed with bike lanes. They're not likely to get out there and ride adjacent to cars moving adjacent to them. And the inverse is true. If you give them a little separation like this, this is a much more attractive approach for women and or novice riders in general. And so if we want to get out of the 3% ghetto that we're in right now with lycra-clad bicyclists and male risk takers and look at the 60% that is interested in this but concerned about it, these are the types of facilities we need to do. So here's an example again in Paris. In Barcelona, same thing, a little buffer zone here, but just paint, and a one-way facility that way. In Paris, same thing, except this is a 2-way facility, a little bit wider in 2 ways, with a berm between them like that. Austin, Texas has installed a facility such as this, taking out a car travel lane on this. This is San Antonio. And then this is New York. The facilities that we have in Long Beach were designed originally in Copenhagen. They were improved or anglicized, so to speak, in New York City. We learned from them and applied those techniques for the most part in Long Beach. And so this is what the New York project looks like and what we based our thing on. It's important to note that they report a 50% increase in business activity along those two routes where they in Manhattan. So this is the Broadway and 3rd project in Long Beach. Again, here's 710 over here. It goes for about 1.25 miles one way that way, and then 1.25 miles back on 3rd. What we did was pull this used to be a car travel lane, and so we converted, put the bicyclists over here, a parking space, 2-car parking, 2-car travel lanes, parking sidewalk. What that looks like before, so we took this photograph out, and I'll show you, this is before and after on Broadway and on 3rd. This is what Broadway looked like before we put the facilities in. This is what we photoshopped it to look like. I'll show you what it really looks like in a moment, but this is what we imagined it to be. And in fact, once we finish the entire project, the landscaping project, it will look very much similar to this. On 3rd Street, going the opposite direction, again, this is what it looked like. And notice over here on the left side, this is where we parked cars before, 1, 2, 3 car parking lanes. We only run about 13,000 cars a day through these routes, and so that's one of the reasons why we have room to maneuver here, is that we have relatively low volumes of automobiles and we don't need that extra lane. So here's what it looks like, or the Photoshop version looked like after on 3rd. Well, here's what it looks like today. Here are the plantings that we've put in. Here's the lane itself. Here's the before and after at Broadway and Elm. That's what it looked like before. Now we've installed it here. Notice all we did was that. On the opposite street coming back, here's what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like today. We spent about $900,000 on this, by the way. $900,000 is not, in the big scheme of things, a lot of money, and particularly with the results that I'll share with you here in a moment, the safety results that we've gotten from this. And so, why are we doing? These are our targets. These are the fans of this that are using this facility now. Alan Crawford is our current bike coordinator in the city. He's the one that commissioned this study that came out last December that took took the view of and took the measure of this from both a transportation efficiency point of view and a safety point of view. And here are the findings. So let's look at this. Broadway and 3rd, separated findings. First of all, bike ridership has increased along that route 33%. Pedestrian increased by 15%. Number of cyclists on the sidewalk has decreased by 50%. That's one of the most important things that our business associations want us to do, and that is to manage the bicycle traffic through those corridors so that it's not a dangerous feat to walk in and out of a store. Bike crashes are down from 80% from 5 per year to 1. Vehicle accidents are down nearly 50%, 90 to fewer than 50. The reason for that, I would project, is that instead of having 3-car travel lanes that were the highway to the highway, now we've narrowed up to 2-car travel lanes, and the speeds have come down. We'll get to that in a moment, but it's a safer condition because it's a simpler condition. When we simplify this, and when the authority figure, that in this case the city of Long Beach, says where we expect cyclists to be, here's where we expect motors to be, and we take away the confusion that sometimes motors have and or cyclists have, we reduce the number of crashes. Next, car travel speeds have reduced on both. 9 miles per hour on 3rd Street, that was the highway to the highway. It's come down from 36 miles per hour to 27 miles per hour. Now, cars still progress through this mile and a quarter or so because the signal lights have been timed now to accommodate roughly 30 mile per hour travel through there. Hence, we're getting the kind of response that those neighbors are looking for, by the way. Downtown Long Beach looks a lot like what's going on Figueroa, and that is there's a lot of new voices at the table. We've got several thousand new residents in the downtown area that are living on both sides of this and really like to have this kind of facility, and they like the fact that traffic is moving through at a respectful, safe speed, and it's no longer seen as the highway to the highway. So no significant, there's been no significant change in car traffic patterns. There's, of the 13,000 or so cars a day, we see about 100 that have changed and gone someplace else. But in the big scheme of things, we've had virtually zero impact, and therefore, this is, based on this study, we've talked to the Federal Highway Administration about going ahead and making this a permanent installation because of the success story that lays out. So it also, and I'll come back and close on this and then answer any questions that you might have. Again, to put this back in context, Long Beach is building for the future. Long Beach is building to be competitive and with those other progressive cities that I outlined and then others, and we're also interested in to attract those that would want to carry on a car light or car-free lifestyle. These are the target customers. Here's who we're looking to attract to Long Beach. These are the heroes that have created the comfort zone in which the professionals have executed some plays. Citizens have had a chance to respond to that. Funding associations, funding and grant sources have given us money for these projects, encouraging us to do more. And I'll just close with an invitation to come down to Long Beach. We do tours by bikes about twice a month down there showing off these facilities, and there's no more persuasive approach I have to getting people to see the value of this kind of facility in a new urban place than getting them out for a ride themselves. So that's me. I appreciate your attention on this. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Damien Goodman. You said that you had done an assessment of the vehicle capacity and the travel patterns. How and why did you do that?
Because we want to look at this from all the stakeholders' points of view and make sure that we are managing traffic through there at a safe, respectful speed, but at the same time achieving other objectives. That is a dynamic business life along the route, safe passage across it for pedestrians, and safe passage for cyclists, and an attractive route to bring cyclists into downtown from the suburbs.
And how did you vet your vehicle travel?
Oh, we paid big money to engineers to observe, to count, to put counters out on the street, and do a serious look at this. And we committed to doing that in our relationship with the Federal Highway Administration, because this is how innovation happens in America today, is that you partner up with the feds on a project such as this. They assume the liability, and you put it down and you test it. To my knowledge, none of these facilities have been removed because they didn't perform. And in fact, there's a body of evidence now in the United States that this type of facility is the wave of the future. Yes, sir.
How close to the Long Beach Convention Center were these improvements?